Hello, my name is Chaz Kempter, and most of you on the unofficial Martin Guitar Forum know me as Stillwaters. Somebody has asked if they know of a video that shows you how to slot your own guitar, and for that person that requested that, I would like to show you how I do a bridgelotomy. Now, there's a couple of things that you're going to need. One, I like a towel, of course a place to work on, but a nice towel or a blanket or something to lay the guitar on. This particular guitar is the only guitar that I know of within a 50-mile radius of me that has not been slotted. So it's an old Washburn guitar, and it's gonna be used for our test today. First thing you want to do is take off all your strings, but I get ahead of myself. I would like to tell you what I use for a normal bridgelotomy. A couple of the tools, of course, I use. You're going to have to take your strings off, so I have a little cutter, I have a little winder. I also like to use a little mirror and a flashlight so that I can see how my slotting is going as I'm doing it. The bridgelotomy kit is nothing more than a VHS old video case that I've put the tools into that I developed for this particular operation. What makes this kit different than anything else are these saws that I made. If you know anything about a bridgelotomy, you know that it's very difficult to use a thin-bladed saw to get a wide slot for your bigger strings in the bottom. So after being very disappointed with what I had bought, the little Stumac bridgelotomy saws, I disappointed with them. They didn't work very well. So I made a couple, and what you have in the kit is one wide blade and a very narrow blade, and the wide blade is used for the bottom three strings and the thin blade is used for the top three strings. Now, so you don't have to watch me take strings off. We're going to cut the film here, and I'll bring you back once the strings are all taken off. One thing I would like to say is if you ever use one of these things, I like to start from the saddle side, but I also like to take my hand and put it down on top of the guitar as I'm working the pin out, because I'm very embarrassed to say that yes, before I started doing that, I'd get a hold of this thing, it would slip off, and I would gouge into the face of the guitar with the tool. So just put your hand down there when you're pulling the pins to keep you from sliding off and hitting that. Alright, I'm going to take these strings back off. I'll be right back with you. Another thing that comes into your kit is a bridge pin reamer. Now you have to be extremely careful with this bridge pin reamer, because the hole in your guitar is straight. The reamer is tapered, and you're not really going to be tapering any more than maybe an 1/8 inch of material off of that little hole. So be very careful with this. You put it in the hole, you give it just a half or a full turn without any pressure whatsoever, and then you try your pin, and if that pin goes down in there, you're done. Trust me, don't start leaning on this little guy right here, because your pins will disappear down into your guitar. Okay? Now we're on to the, once you get that all done, that's very, very easy. Just test each pin, go slow, half a turn, give it another try, and you'll be okay. The next part is the actual slotting of the bridge. Now the reason we do this, if you'll take a note of these pins, these are ebony pins, and I don't know if the camera can focus on them good enough, but the ball end of this string has been creeping up out of the pinhole so long on this particular guitar that it's basically destroyed the bottom of this pin. This is what we're trying to avoid. We're trying to create a slot on the bridge plate so that the ball end goes in and hooks on that slot. Instead of pushing against the pin, it now is stuck under there, and no matter how hard you pull, it's not going to go anywhere. I've heard guys tell me that once they do this operation, their guitars sound better, they stay in tune longer, and I believe all of it because I've noticed the same things on my own. Now, here's a part where most of the guys are a little bit nervous. They don't like to cut on their guitars. Understandable. I'm a woodworker. This is my woodworking shop. I was still nervous when it came time to take out a little saw and cut on my guitar. However, there are a few tricks. Number one, find yourself a little 1/4-inch drill bit and a piece of wood, and drill yourself a couple of holes down into that little piece of wood, and just practice starting this little saw. Practice cutting little slots with this saw, and once you become more comfortable with it, you won't think anything about coming in and cutting a small slot on your bridge. As with any saw, the trick to getting the saw started in the slot is don't put too much pressure on the teeth. You have to kind of finesse the saw in and out nice and gently at first, so that you can create the track in which it will be sawing. If it gets stuck and hangs up a little bit, and don't panic, just loosen your pressure just a little bit and start over. What you don't want to do is you don't want to get down inside this hole, pull the saw out, and then stab the top of your guitar. That would not be good, okay? So make sure you have good control over this saw blade. One thing that I did when I made this saw was I canted the blade back just a little bit so that as you're sawing, you can see a little bit better of what you're doing. Now, I'm not going to saw all of these because one is just like the other. But what I will show you is how I like to hold it, how I like to attack the guitar, and I'll show you how I get it started, and then we'll cut the film and we'll get on with it after that. I like to kind of give myself a soft table. I like to kind of grab the guitar in the sound hole and lean over the top of the guitar, and what I'm basically trying to do is make sure that the angle of my saw blade stays pretty straight up and down. I don't want to tip it too far back under this way because then my slot inside the guitar will be too deep. I don't want to tip it back too much this way because then the slot is not, the ball end will not be hooking on anything. I want it to be pretty much straight up and down, and I want it to be about a 1/16 of an inch slotted into the bridge. It's not hard once you kind of get the hang of it to stop, saw a little bit, stop, saw a little bit, take a look. Just don't go too fast, don't get too excited, and it works out pretty good. Okay, to show you the first slot, get it down in there, get the saw moving, and now I have created, I'm sure you can't see it on the camera, but I have created a little slot that's about a 1/16 of an inch deep. Notice it, at first it kind of feels like it sticks on you, and some of that is due to the fact that some of the pinholes are just about as wide as this